An Orthodox Migration by Nicole Coutet. The Wenger family, who is my maternal grandmother's family, we came from Switzerland. The surname is derived from the Wenger Alps, a branch kind of the Swiss Alps, where our family farmed and raised their families. So my ancestors were Mennonite. If you don't know what Mennonite is, they are a little more modernized than the Amish. We actually use electricity, and a lot of times the men do work outside the home in, different jobs besides farming, as to where Amish just stay with the farming. They kind of stay around the home. Sometime between 1660 and 1690, our family was forced from Switzerland due to some political issues there. The Mennonites do not go to war. We don't believe in carrying arms. We don't bear arms unless it's for hunting or, protection of our own homes. But we don't believe in using violence and war against other countries. We are what's called a peace religion. And we also don't believe in baptizing our babies. A lot of religions believe that babies are born with sin, therefore they need to be baptized, or they're doomed, to go to hell. A lot of religions believe that. We don't believe that. We believe babies are born pure. And then when they get old enough, they can decide when they're ready to be baptized. So the Mennonites, because of specifically those two beliefs, were persecuted against. So they needed to make a move. So they found a really progressive statesman who was ruling a Palatinate in Germany at the time. So we were able to go there, and our family lived on the West Bank there, and started farms. And for 2 generations, they actually flourished there and did a really, nice job. They were, the Amish and the Mennonite are avid farmers, so they were able to create something out of nothing there. They had the skills to do so. When our first ancestor that came to America, it was Christian Wenger, and I believe that his father, who, a gentleman, one of our Wenger family household members, he actually did a little genealogy and discovered that Christian's father's name must have been Michael, and he probably came to the Philadelphia area on a ship around 1717. What we do have proof of is that Christian Wenger boarded the ship Molly in 1727 and landed in a little bit outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that is still to this day actually where a huge Amish community and Mennonite community resides. They are still there hundreds of years later. We did find out is that we didn't have to struggle when we got here, because Christian's father already had this huge plot of land. I believe it was about 100 acres. And he had already started farming, but Christian came over here because his father had died and left all this land. So it was a perfect opportunity for Christian to bring his family over and begin a new life in America. Where we had the land, our family was actually called West Earl Township. And he was able actually to obtain ownership of the land right away. Keep in mind, the Mennonite Amish didn't own any slaves, never in a million years would have owned any slaves. They weren't that kind of people. They were very self-reliant and very community reliant. So neighbors worked with each other, and, they had a ton of kids. So the kids always, helped out. And so within 3 days of arriving, another Mennonite man was able to straighten everything out for Christian. So he was able to get the paperwork and get everything done and get his farming started and pick up where his dad had left off before everything was ruined. So he had luck. He wasn't someone that came over here and was persecuted here. They'd had to move once, and luckily when they got here, he had it set up for him already. So, in keeping traditions alive, our family, stayed Mennonite and kept on with those traditions, which very surprising to see my grandmother, my maternal grandmother's parents, who of course I never met. My grandmother just died at 90 a few years ago, and I'm 40 myself, so my mom's in her 70s, so these people are a lot older. But so this is Charles and Goldie Wenger, their wedding day. They were actually 17 years old when they got married here, and within 13 years, that's My grandma, she's feisty. The face she's making is the face she always had. She did not play around. These are 8 of their 12 children. So they kicked into making babies right away. They ended up having 12. This is a picture of 8 of them. And this came from a book that my cousin Amy actually created that you'll see more of. This is actually when the migration began from the East Coast in Philly to when the Mennonite just kind of started moving over to more fertile grounds. As Philly became more of a city, a lot of the Mennonite, they really sought out, refuge and quiet and spacious places. They like to expand their farming, and they didn't want to, change. They didn't want to really evolve, into city life. So they moved west into Ohio, and then from Ohio into Wakarusa, Indiana, in Goshen. And if you really look into that area, it's still high with traditional Amish and Mennonite people. So here we have my Uncle Merrill. These are 2 of my grandma's sisters. This is Mary and Faye. Faye I actually knew very, very well, and I stayed with her many times when I went to Indiana. So I stayed with her, and this was her husband. And I believe this house is still standing because I believe that my grandmother's siblings all built it. And I believe it's still there in Wakarusa, where the rest of Faye and Merrill's children still reside with their grandchildren. So my whole family's still where they have been since the early 1900s. This picture was taken in 1933 here. Excuse me. So for 125 years, they kind of stayed in the Midwest. They're still there. The Mennonites were really known for being savvy carpenters, farmers, artisans. They make their own butter. They farm their own animals. Everything like that. They make their own clothes. Their own form of communication. They make their own pots. Everything. They do it all themselves. It's just insane. And it wasn't until my grandmother's generation that they kind of started separating and practicing some more modern ways. But the strict family culture still remained. And a lot of those issues, not necessarily from the religion, but other people that have been brought into the family, really caused some issues and some divisiveness in our family. So this is my grandma, Helena Alexander. You met her parents, you met her sisters, and now you can meet her. She was married to my mother's father. I won't picture him, and you'll understand why in a moment. But my grandma, Helen Wanger, she was born in 1924. She was a super rebel. From the beginning, she still kind of just went against the grain. However, her basic beliefs from growing up kind of stayed, you know how those things resonate with you. So against family, against all family. She came out here to California to go to college, and then she met someone working in a warehouse, and he was a divorced man with children. It's totally against Mennonite tradition. So against her family's wishes, she did it anyway. They forgave her and embraced her. They don't disown their people like the Amish do. The Mennonites still embrace, even though they oppose it. So when my grandpa was in World War II. He was, and he served. And my grandma just worked warehouse jobs, and she's still nursing during World War II as well. However, Mennonite people are more, there was actually a treaty that was done in the U.S., and it was for peace religions like ours, to where all we had to do was more of like citizens work, more like be nurses and farm and feed the soldiers and things like that. So that's what people from the Mennonite, instead of going to war, they did. Instead, they were support. So she did a lot of that. So she died a few years ago, and she was super feisty till the end. My sisters and I had a strained relationship with her due to who she chose to marry, and that would be the racist in our family, which is horrible because our family had such great bones. Our family had such great history of just being pure and being true and being good people, that my grandma, decided to marry someone that brought just bad things into our family. So growing up, our family practiced very religious tenets, no loud voices, no dancing, drinking, smoking, tattoos, no divorce, no interracial dating, there was just some things that, just aren't okay, aren't practical. And it's one of those things that we started you know, going against the grain once we heard those things. It was just very, very strict. It was threatened into me at the age of 9. Someone had told me it was my grandma's husband. I don't call him my grandfather, but my grandma's husband. He chose, his brother held me by the arms, and told me, you look at the color of a man's skin before you date him. And I didn't think about it. I was 9, and now looking back, could have been very damaging, had I not had my mom and my sisters to really balance me out. But the issues began to rise when we noticed deep racism when we had our own biracial children. The family that we were raised with, kind of, when we lived in Nebraska, when my parents were married, didn't have racial tendencies. They were very quiet. They were very reserved. So coming back to California, all of a sudden seeing the craziness that my mom's family had embedded in them was just horrible. So when my nephew, my middle sister's son, he went into the Army and they did a background check in 2009, it was revealed, and my nephew was actually questioned about, our grandfather, maternal grandfather, who's my mother's father. He actually was a registered member of the KKK. And this is a man my grandmother had married and brought into a family that wasn't that way. And that's when we started noticing why that part of my mother's family was horrible and everybody else was just a little bit different. So his brothers, the one who, told me to look at the color of a man's skin, they were all registered members of the KKK. And my mom claimed to never know anything about it, that he was such a great guy. But the further we researched, the further we, the Army researched for us and revealed so many things for us that it really helped us to understand, where things took a bad turn. And it was my grandma's decision to bring someone like that. He was a drinker. He was a smoker. He just wasn't a good person. And he really ruined an entire generation of our family. So my sisters and I all have biracial children. We've separated ourselves from our mother's family. And, in doing so, we've just learned that the Mennonite part of our family was very inspiring. They're honest, hardworking, and visiting them, it's always a joy. It's always kind of a breath of fresh air to be around them. Unfortunately, my grandma brought hate into the family, and she wasn't born to do something like that. She didn't have the right to do that, to kind of scratch everything, that we could have known. And, thank goodness we were able to relearn how to be, Our immediately family recognized, where the change went and how we can change it, and how we can not erase our family history, but definitely not recognize it. We don't have to, we can delete him. We can't delete what he did, of course, I'm sure, to some people, but unfortunately our family, we had white privilege. Our family came to the U.S. easily, had land, had no problem, and they were able to migrate and be successful. And unfortunately, they didn't use that. Once my grandma married this man, they didn't use that, what they had, to help others. He did things probably even before he met my grandma to tear the world down. And it's just really sad. But to know that the Mennonite side, was just so successful and very strong-willed, even after being persecuted in their own country and having to leave. I hope that, what they did was enough, in God's eyes, to counter the mistakes that my grandmother's husband made. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and, my family history is a little different than most. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for hearing me out and listening.